Hey everyone, welcome back to the Promised Land with me, Scott Saunders, talking all things Manchester United, all things Ipswich Town 1, Manchester United 1 on Sunday in Ruben Amorim's first game in charge as head coach. Was not the most amazing, super promising new manager bound start that I think a few people might have been expecting. It was more of a regression to the mean, regression to what we've seen previously. And I'm thinking, trying to be upbeat, maybe that's the best thing that we possibly could have wanted, because there's no opportunities here. We know what Ruben Amorim is working with straight off the bat, and Ruben Amorim knows what he's working with straight off the bat. He's cut throughout most of that game for me. I just think he's looked really, 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 really ticked off with what he's seen. And obviously he said in his interviews over the first week that he's going to defend his players all he can in public. But for me, this is me speculating on what I have seen and what I think I have seen. But that is not a very, very happy man at all. And I think Ed Sheeran crashed his post-match interview with Sky Sports. If you haven't seen that, go and check out that nonsense, because it's absolutely nonsense. This is a man who just wants to coach his players. And he's essentially said that on national TV. He has essentially said, I don't want to do all of this media. I just want to get on with my job, which is coaching the players. That's where I want to be, because he knows that there's work to do, and there is a hell of a lot of work to do. So I'll be talking about what we've seen in the draw with Ipswich. United were lucky, to be honest. United were quite lucky. Andre Onana having a really good season. I guess making two particularly really, really big, important saves, saving United a point. And it could have been worse, let's be honest, because the performance wasn't really there. Because it's going to be a difficult few months for these players, I suppose, and a difficult few months for Ruben Amorim and his coaches to get these messages through to the players, to reverse engineer what they think in match, what's natural to them, and to try and get them to do something different. It's going to take a little bit of time. And we definitely had a reminder that it would take a little bit of time straight off the bat. So yeah, that's what I'll be talking about today. Plenty of thoughts. Let me know what you think as well in the comments section. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the podcast as well, the Promise and a Manchester United podcast on YouTube. Like I say, like the stream, get in the comments, let me know what you thought of that game, because it was not super great. Few positives to take out of it, but not a lot. There's a lot of issues for me which need to be worked out and worked on. And as Amorim has said on numerous occasions since that game, they've only had 2 training sessions, so it's unfair to expect the world of them in a new system and everything to kick off straight away, even though United scored in the first 81 seconds or whatever it was to take the lead. But yeah, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on audio as well if you prefer that. I'm on Apple and Spotify as well, the Promise and a Man United podcast. And follow me on social media. I'm on Blue Sky, I'm on Twitter or X, Instagram, and TikTok as well, even though I'm posted on there for bloody ages, at _Scott Saunders on all of those. And just, I think, Scott Saunders on Blue Sky. I can't remember, but the links are all in the description underneath. Anyway, but look, I'll run through this game and what I thought of it, and maybe do that in a second. But just to touch on Amorim first, he cut a figure to me, and he might have to be careful. He really might have to be careful, because I love the way he speaks. I love the way he expresses himself. I love that he is really, really, really honest. But you know how this press can be. And if he gets on the wrong side of them at any point, then maybe they can have a field day with some of the things he is saying. Because I think he speaks very, very openly. And I've seen managers in the past speak quite openly and get it turned against them and twisted against them. I think we're just in a good period with him at the moment where he's won over everybody. But I think that's just my first thought. There's some things where, maybe I'm wrong on this. If you think I'm wrong on this, then please let me know. But I think there were some things, especially in his Sky Sports interview on the pitch, that he said that I was like, ooh, yeah, just be careful with what you're saying. And maybe it's a case of the frustration coming through, because you could tell that he was frustrated. You really, really could. But managing the media is a big thing, and he's got a fantastic charm about him. But at the same time, sometimes you can be a little bit too honest. And that was what I don't think it's a problem now, but I'm just saying that if results don't pick up, and you keep kind of doing that, then maybe it can turn around a little bit and work against you. But look, I love his honesty. I really, really do. I think it's been needed for a long time. I think that a lot of the problems that we saw under previous managers, we saw again under Ruben Amorim. Poor passing. The passing was atrocious. It really, really was. So wasteful. And that was one of the first things that Ruben Amorim said when he was coming in. We need to keep the ball better. And United did not keep the ball better at all, really. There was much more control in the second half compared to the first, but they were still very, very careless with the ball in possession. There was a lot of players as well. Maybe it's a positional thing. Maybe it's a overthinking, as what Amorim said. Maybe it's an overthinking thing about what do I do in this situation now, having to reverse engineer it in your own mind. But, taking care of the ball should be primary. And I think there were so many occasions where hot potato, I've used the words hot potato about United in possession for so long, and it kind of felt a bit like that to me at points. But look, it was a difficult game, and Ipswich are, like, in credit to them, a really, really high energy outfit. They've run other teams close, like some of the big teams. They've run them really close so far this season. They just beat Tottenham as well. So it's not exactly a super easy game against a passive team to go up against straight away. But, maybe you're hoping for a little more. I think we were all hoping for a little more, and I'm sure Ruben Amorim was hoping for a little more as well, but he didn't really get too much. All he did get, really, was a goal in the first 90-odd seconds. Fantastic work from Ahmad, who I will talk about in this podcast. Nice little interchange in United's own half, where they managed to work their way out of a corner. And then Ahmad's pace and his ability to beat players shone through. Carries it into the box, squares it for Marcus Rashford, who gets to the front post and does what a striker should do. And that is exactly what I think we will see Man United strikers do more of when they understand this system a lot more. It unfortunately didn't happen enough in this game. It happened in the first few minutes. But there was only a couple of real occasions today where I saw, and it was funnily enough at the start of each half, where I'm guessing Amorim has come in and tried to hammer the message home about this is what you do, this is what you do. And I thought we saw in the first goal, fantastic build-up play, a great carry by Ahmad, and everything that you'd think about a striker getting to the front post or waiting for a tap-in. We saw that in the first 2 minutes. And then United thought, nah, we're not going to keep the ball. Let's just go hot potato with it. Let's be really careless with it. Let's be really lax with it. And they kind of reverted to their old selves. And we know all the problems that United have with keeping possession. For me, it's let other managers down in the past. I'm not going to mention Erik ten Hag. But if United's players had kept the ball a lot better, you don't have to run backwards quite so often because you're being more careful with the ball. You're in possession of it. You don't have to chase when you give the ball away in a bad area and waste your energy. But that was the first 90 seconds was really positive and good stuff with Marcus Rashford. And at the start of the second half as well, there was a moment, I think in the first 50-odd seconds or something like that, Bruno Fernandes managed to get the ball in one of the 10 positions and slot Alejandro Garnacho through, I think it was, and the shot was saved. And that is something that I think we will see more of as well as we move forward in this Ruben Amorim system. But there wasn't much else, to be honest. It's a lot of, as Amorim said, a lot of overthinking, a lot of wondering, what do I do in this situation? And you kind of end up second guessing yourself. So I do have a little bit of sympathy for the players in that case. But I think generally what this game was a reminder and an introduction to Manchester United and the mess that it is for Ruben Amorim, because he has a lot of work to do. His coaches have a lot of work to do, and it's going to take time. He knows it's going to take time. He's warning that it'll take time. But these players have a lot of work to do in order to make it in this game, in this system. There were some who I thought cope with it better than others. But there's just things that I'm seeing in this that I know watching the game that I think, right, this player here needs to do this, or this player needs to do this in this situation. And we just really wasn't getting it. It was reversion to old habits. There was a moment where United wasted a really good breakaway where Rashford dropped deep to kind of pass the ball to Garnacho, and they just completely misunderstood each other. And I thought, guys, you've been playing together for 2 and a bit years now, or however long it's been since Garnacho has broken into the team. And come on, you got to be on the same page. But maybe it's the system. I don't know. But there's a hell of a lot of work to do. It was largely an aggression to old habits. No control really in the first half. I thought Ipswich were much better. United had more control in the second, but Ipswich looked more threatening even in the second half as well. And like I say, United were quite lucky that Andre Onana was there, and he's in really good form at the moment, making some important saves. So there's plenty to work on, and there are more sessions to be done. United will have to work on this, and Amorim has said in his post-match press conference with journalists at Portman Road, he said essentially that because United don't have loads of time between matches, because matches come so thick and fast during his first few months in charge. United are flat out at it now. Games every 3 days, right through till the next international break, I think, pretty much. Amorim has essentially said, look, we're going to have to use all of our squad here. I need to get to understand these players. I need to know their weaknesses and strengths and where they can adapt and what they can bring to the table, maybe that they didn't know they had themselves. All I want to see is an attitude and a willingness to try. And he has said today that that was the biggest compliment he gave, I think, that these players want it. They are trying, but they obviously the execution of it wasn't fantastic at times. But yeah, he said that United played Bodo Glimt in the Europa League on Thursday in his first match at Old Trafford. And he's essentially said, and this is perhaps the best way to do it, when asked, how are you going to get these players to play your way that you want when you know that it's going to take loads of training sessions? He's essentially said that, look, we're going to have to use all of our players. We're going to have to pick an 11 and they can concentrate on the game. The players that aren't playing are going to have to train the system, and we're going to have to rotate around so players can catch up, but just in halves or in thirds, I don't know, at different times, not all together, because obviously maybe it is a big squad that they got to utilize, and I suppose there's decisions to be made on a lot of players as well. So maybe it's the best way to do it. Maybe it's the only way to do it. In an ideal world, you'd have 8 weeks of or however long it is, of a preseason, 6 weeks of a preseason, plus some preseason friendlies in order to pick it up. But United have made this decision that Amorim's come in mid-season, and obviously he's got to do the best that he can do with the time that he's got, with the volume of matches that he's got as well. So I thought that was quite interesting with what he said in his post-match press conference. But he said as well that what he wants to get out of this as soon as possible is for people to say, I can see what Man United's structure is. And you can say that it's not fluid and the players are not fluid within the structure, but at least I see a structure, and the fluidity on top of that structure is the next step in the process. And he said, when they start thinking about the structure, they will be so much better, but we need time to do that during this time. We have to manage to win games as well as doing this, and that's very important, and I know that. So, yeah, it's going to be a difficult thing, but I think what I did see today was, I'll be with him on that. I think I did see players that were willing to try. Whether they are able to execute it again is something that I think needs to be questioned, and that will need to be questioned and will be questioned. But the structure, I saw it, and an idea. He said, going into this game, I think you will see an idea. We want to win. We need to win, but I think you will see an idea of what we want to do. And for me, I saw it. I think most people maybe saw it. If you saw it, get in the comments and let me know. If you didn't see it, also let me know, and get in touch with me on social media as well at @_Scott Saunders. I saw an idea, And it's just a case now of players having to figure out what they do in these situations. Like, I'll take Diogo Dalot as an example, because he named Diogo Dalot in his post-match as well as a player who was doing something completely different 6 weeks ago at left back compared to what he's being asked to do now. So Diogo Dalot's right-footed. He can play both sides, but he's right-footed, obviously. And what Amorim has favoured at Sporting is a left-footed left winger playing at left wing back. Essentially, that's the preference there. And obviously, Dalot instantly has the disadvantage of not being left-footed in that position. So he has to work on things. And what he said was, Dalot has spent the last couple of seasons, really, when he's played at left back, being a left back, but inverting inside and coming in field and becoming an extra midfielder, which we have seen with Erik ten Hag. Sometimes you'd see Dalot maybe shoot on and get into those situations where there's a ball lofted over the top and he was in one-on-one. And obviously that happened at West Ham and he missed an easy chance from right back, I think that was. But yeah, generally Dalot's expectation in that position has been to invert and to occupy a position in the center of the pitch. Now, the difference with him here is that he's being asked to essentially hug the touchline, bring width, bring energy, and immediately he's at a disadvantage where he is right-footed and can't run the touchline with the ball at the touchline, protecting the ball from the defender who's the other side of him, because he generally tends to carry the ball with his right foot because he's right-footed. So, difficult thing for him today. I picked out and tweeted about this during the game as well, that Dalot's passing has been atrocious, and I thought it was. For most of the game, it was really poor. There was a number of occasions where the weight of the pass was off, or the direction of the pass was off, and it would end in nothing, or it would lead to the ball being given away in a dangerous area and a turnover. But there was other moments where Dalot was, you could see him. He was looking up while taking the ball at left back or left wing back and thinking, maybe I'll pass inside. Maybe I'll come inside. Oh, no, wait, I have to check. And he did it at least 3 times that I counted. He took the ball, kind of feinted a little bit, and started dribbling with his right foot, but down the left flank in order to beat his man. And he did it. In fairness to him, he did it pretty well. But overall, his performance, I thought, was not great, and he has a lot of work to do for me. Luke Shaw came in and played as left centre-back. We'll see what happens with Lisandro Martinez when he comes back, and whether Luke Shaw will offer that option on the left flank. Or maybe Luke Shaw is the left centre-back option alongside Martinez. We'll wait and see. But I think that's the good thing here. Maybe players will have multiple positions they can do in this system, while United end up buying more specialised players for the positions like later down the line. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. I mean, it was good to see Luke Shaw back in the end. I think he did okay, but Dalot had a few issues, and I think there's a lot that Dalot's got to work on. And look, he just happens to be the first player that I picked out. I'll pick out Ahmad as well. Maybe I'll come to Ahmad in a little bit because I'm going through... no, let's do Ahmad now, actually. Now, talking positives, I think Ahmad was one of United's best players today. In this game, he showed real good defensive aptitude and application. And I think maybe he wanted to use him in that position because, as I say, he has used previously a left-footed left winger at left wing back and a left-footed more inverted, I think, like right-sided player. So Ahmad maybe fits the bill on that side. And maybe Anthony fits the bill on that side as well. But we didn't see him today, obviously. But look, he will get a shot. He will get a chance to come in. Ahmad, for me, had a good game. Obviously, really contributed well to the first goal. Made the goal. He really did. Lots of positives from him. He's been one of United's strongest performers this season. And I think he deserves a spot in the team. I just think, looking at that today, I thought it's a bit of a waste. It's a bit of a waste putting him in that position. And maybe he is being eyed up as one of those number 10s. I personally think that it's a waste putting him back there. And maybe he does offer, like in an ideal world, he can play that right wing back role and offer something extra in an attacking sense. There was a moment late on where he took the ball and dribbled through a couple of players and nearly and got a shot away. I think they would end up blocked. But for me, Ahmad is best fit in one of those two number 10 roles. And there's a hell of a lot of competition for places in those roles. So maybe I can understand why Ahmad has been brought into the right wing back role to start with. But for me, I'd like to see Ahmad as one of those two players in the 10. I think that was something that I thought I wanted to see from the very beginning. And maybe it's just a case of squad imbalance and squad management that Amorim's chose to put in there straight off. But I do hope we get to see him in those number 10 roles at some point, because I think his close control, his acceleration, his ability to beat a man, his end product, in a sense. I think United really lacked an end product today, and that's no surprise, to be honest. But for me, he could be quite effective in one of those two tucked in roles. I really, really think that. Especially when he gets between the lines, especially when he's able to pick up the ball between the lines and go at players. I think he would be really, really well suited to something like that. But like I say, there's Garnacho, Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, Mason Mount, Joshua Zirkzee, Ahmad. All of these players are fighting for essentially two positions. And maybe a few players are fighting for the striker position as well. But yeah, for me, Ahmad is best fit in one of those two 10 spots. I would like to see him there. Maybe when I see him there, maybe I'll be wrong, but I generally do think that he can add an extra bit of threat in one of those two positions. Probably the right side of the forward position, because I think Bruno Fernandes got a little bit of criticism from what I saw on social media today, but I think if United can get to a place where they understand the system better, Bruno can actually be really good in one of those 2-10 positions, picking the passes through like he did for, as I mentioned a little bit earlier on, for Garnacho at the start of the second half. But Bruno would obviously drop back to central midfield as well. We didn't see Kobbie Mainoo today. Didn't see Lenny Yoro today, but hopefully they'll come in and rotate in at some point soon. Hopefully we see Lenny Yoro in the next game. There was no Yoro in the squad today, but yeah, it's I even said just then, even if it means Anthony gets a shot at right wing back, I would like to see Ahmad pushed into. Well, look, it can be Anthony, it can be Dallo, it can be Mazraoui, who I thought was cracking actually at right centre back today. I thought he had a really good game. Not a surprise, because Mazraoui has just proven that he's generally just really good all over the pitch, and I think United have got a hell of a bargain there. Really, really useful utility player that you can depend on. But Anthony was seen in one of those first training sessions training as the right wing back, so maybe we'll see him at some point. I just think Anthony's defensive numbers, and you can check this out, Anthony's defensive numbers for wingers are among the best in the league. So I know there's not a lot that he's best at in comparison to the rest of the league, but he can do that job. He can work backwards. He's very tenacious. He likes to get stuck in and this kind of thing as well. And he can carry the ball as well, whether that's, yes, he's very, very left-footed. And that's another thing that Anthony will have to work on, being able to carry with his right foot on the other side. But, I think it wouldn't surprise me at all if we see Anthony in that role. And I think this is, I'm not saying permanently, but just at some point. It was a good afternoon today in the sense of understanding and seeing things for the first time and understanding like what Amorim thinks of these players and where he's going to put them. Because that was a massive, massive unknown. And there's still a lot of unknowns, really, because we only saw, 16 players today? The 11 plus the 5 subs. So there's plenty more to come. But yeah, I think just touching on that, like Ahmad for me, running that off, Ahmad for me, I would like to see him in one of those 2-10 spots. And if the profile of player that he's going for in the right wing back role is a player like quick off the ground, good, able to carry the ball and can track back and is left-footed in a sense, and maybe Anthony's the right fit for that position. But we'll see what he ends up doing in the next few weeks. probably blasphemy to a lot of people who've written Anthony off. But you got to this next few months is just about, for me, using everyone in the squad and seeing what they can offer. And if it means that some lad you spent 80, 85 million quid on isn't actually a dud and you can get something out of him, then fantastic. But yeah, for me, Ahmad was one of United's best players along with Onana and Mazraoui. Let me know what you thought of Marcus Rashford, though, because I said a couple of weeks ago that I think Marcus Rashford could benefit from this system as a centre forward quite a lot. And obviously, within 90 odd seconds, we saw that he got involved straight away. He picked up the right position in the box and he tapped the ball in. He got in there ahead of the keeper and the ball was in the net and he'd scored a goal. So, you know, that proves there that the plan can work to feed the striker. But I think there was a big thing with Marcus Rashford today. And look, Marcus Rashford gets a hell of a lot of stick. And look, I understand that it's a sensitive area to criticize Marcus Rashford or whatever. But I think for me, he was one of the players today that I saw that I thought you need to rewire the way that you think in this system, because there were so many occasions today where United had the ball and Rashford was, as a centre forward, dropping in and vacating the position of centre forward. Like, what I think United need here is like what we've seen with Victor Gyökeres at Sporting, just a guy who can just occupy two defenders and play on the shoulder and wait and not feel the need to get involved all the time. There were occasions where I saw, and maybe this was an instruction, I don't know, where I saw Rashford pull in right, Bruno Fernandes pull in through the middle, and Garnacho like all mixing up, or Rashford dropping off and moving out wide and not being in the right place at the right time, or not offering that threat through the middle, which plays such an important role in this team. You need that striker playing through the middle, offering that threat in behind, in order for players behind him with the ball in the space in front of the defenders, maybe between the midfield, to give them more space to feed that striker or to feed somebody else. If your striker is dropping off, the defense can push up, they can constrict the space, and ultimately you're not going to see too much in terms of effect. So Rashford did it really well in the first minute, but I didn't really see it too much on too many other occasions. And that was look, I'm naming players here, and I'm saying that there's things where I think players need to rewire what they think in these situations in matches. And I think that's another one for me. We've always had doubts about whether Rashford is a centre forward, and maybe Rashford himself doesn't think of himself as a centre forward. But the simple fact is that every player in this team has to now fit a specific set of instructions for a position on the pitch, because that is the coach that United have brought in. If you don't do it, you're gone. I think the time now that we're, especially over the next few weeks, the time now in the next few months, the time now is the time to prove that you deserve to stay at Man United and that you can be effective under this new coach. And it may not be fair that I'm saying it after game one, but it's been a common problem with Rashford for a long time that it hasn't worked at centre forward, because it happens with a lot of players. Like Wayne Rooney used to say it a lot when Wayne Rooney played through the middle and he was required to just stay up front. He scored, I think it was probably his best goal scoring season for United. I think it was in 2010. It was his best goal scoring season for United, but he was frustrated because he wasn't involved in the game. So he was dropping backwards, but that was cutting away from what United were trying to do. So I think that is really important that centre forward does what is required. And it was Marcus Rashford for a while. He ended up getting substituted and Rasmus Højlund came on. And I know that people are critics of Højlund as well. And yes, he is quite erratic, but he's quite young. But for me, when I saw Højlund come on, almost instantly, I could see that threat of a big striker who's willing to run behind defenses. I saw it straight away. And there were a couple of occasions where that ball was played in. Højlund would run off the shoulder and carry the ball forward and get United up the pitch and hold the ball up. It didn't always work out. And yes, Højlund needs to work on that as well. But he has that instinct of a striker where he knows that's the run I'm going to make. And yeah, it's a challenge for him. It's a challenge for all these players. It's a challenge for Marcus Rashford as well. But I think he's one of the players that has to work on his game at centre forward. Maybe we'll see him in one of the two positions off the striker as well in future matches. But like I said, there's a lot of competition for places in those positions. I haven't spoke too much about Joshua Zirkzee. I'm not going to run through all of the players, but I'm just trying to get across what I think, because I don't want to go on for an hour, 2 hours or whatever. It's I'm not going to name everyone today, but Joshua Zirkzee as well has got to find a way to fit in the system, because this is one of the big Ineos calls. Good value deal at the time for a player in Serie A who scored a few goals and looked a really good centre forward. Or a 9.5. Maybe I used the wrong terminology of centre forward. Or attacker. He just looks... I don't see a place for him in this team. Maybe some people do. Maybe one of those two roles in behind is the best place for him, but doesn't seem like he has the characteristics to me. So I don't want to write the kid off yet, but I know there's a lot of people who aren't convinced already with what we're seeing from Zirkzee, and I got to say, I'm not on board yet. He's going to have to show me something different and show us something different, and show Ruben Amorim, the most important thing, show Ruben Amorim something different in order to make his way into this team. But the fact of the matter is, there's so much. It's funny because there's so much competition for places now that you have to make an impact or do the right things in a limited amount of time, because you know that there's other players that are being looked at, that are being checked out, and we already know that I think Mason Mount is probably a good fit for one of those two positions in this system. And I think for me, he'll gravitate towards the instructions because it's a little bit more natural to him, I suppose, in this system. And Amorim's already name checked him as well, so it's an interesting one. But I don't know what will happen. Let me know your thoughts on Zirkzee. He's already been linked with a move away, but I don't think he'll go in January or whatever. But maybe if United need to raise a bit of money, then maybe it's the right move. But I just don't see a natural fit for him in the system at the moment. And that's all of the players that I wanted to talk about today. I think that, look, there's tons more I could talk about. Apologies, I had to mute myself. I've got a little bit of a cold at the moment, but it wasn't the best day for United, and there's a few players that I've wanted to talk about, and I will talk about more as I do future episodes. But the guy I want to talk about most is Ruben Amorim, because there was a stat that came out at the end: 102 kilometers run versus 108 kilometers run. Guess who did less? So United's second lowest total of the season covered, 102 kilometers. And that tells you all you need to know, really. There was extracts or pieces of information, like Kieran McKenna, I think, said before this game, manager of Ipswich, of course. He said before this game that Ipswich pride themselves on being high energy, high pressing, and, big on energy and big on work rate. Ruben Amorim Sporting outdid his team, and Ipswich were one of the leading teams in the country, or one of the leading teams in Europe for it. And Amorim's team at Sporting outdid them in a league where you don't really think that intensity is required quite as much. And that's maybe why Amorim has been so successful with Sporting, because of the intensity that his players at Sporting were able to lift. But there's a hell of a lot of work to do. I know that I'm just going to name a few players here: Johnny Evans, Casemiro, Christian Eriksen. Maybe that's the three there. They're all 30 plus, and look, I'm as old as these guys, so I'm not trying to criticize them too much. but they are not the exact profile fits for United in terms of playing a high energy, high pressing system. So, look, 102 kilometers versus 108. If United are getting outrun in their first game, then that's probably a problem. And it probably indicates that something needs to be worked on. Amorim has already said, we need to keep the ball better. We need to take better care of the ball. We need to run more. We need to run back. And in fairness to them, they did run back when it was necessary. And in the first half anyway. In the second, they didn't need to run back as much because they took better control of the ball, I think. But they kind of lost a little bit of their threat at the same time. But running backwards and taking better care of the ball are two things that Amorim name-checked before this game took place in the first place. And like high pressing and intensity and energy is something that we know that he wants. And we didn't really see it out of this group of players. And I suppose it tells you all you really need to know, but it's not a surprise either. And that really is evidence. And look, maybe we'll see Ugarte and Kobbie Mainoo play as a midfield too. Maybe we'll see other players worked in, and United have a more youthful, higher energy, higher intensity team in future matches moving forward. But look, the fact of the matter is, these players, as long as they're contracted to United over the next few months, are going to get rotated in and out and being given a chance to prove themselves in the system and to take the weight off other players because there's so many matches to play. So we're going to be watching this for a little while. I'm sure Amorim will come to who his favorites are at some point pretty soon, I would think. But rotation is going to have to be happening. It's going to be necessary, like right from the get-go. So it's important that we give these players a chance and give them some time to prove themselves. But the fact of the matter is, United still got to win games even while they're doing that. And just to wrap up, I think Amorim today cut quite a frustrated figure on the touchline. There were so many jokes already about look what they've done to him already. It's his first game, and he's like crouching down with his head in his hands on the bench or in front of the bench. And he came across as a little bit irritated in his post-match on TV. And I love it. But at the same time, I think maybe we're in a bit of a honeymoon period with him at the moment. And we understand that like we love the passion and the forthright chat and this kind of thing. If he's going to give all of this forthright like feedback, even publicly, I'm sure the players are getting it a hell of a lot worse. But that's got to be backed up. And I'm sure it will be because Ashworth and Berrada and Jason Wilcox are on the same page and they're all in this together with Ruben Amorim. But it's, I think there's a lot of work to do. And I think he maybe showed his frustration a little bit too much today. For me, I'm not criticizing him at all. I love the guy. I really do. But, I'm just thinking if results don't pick up and things don't turn around, just worry. If I've seen how I work in the media, I've seen how things turn around. I see how things can turn around back on you quite quickly. And, it's a dangerous game. It could be playing. So I'll just end there and I'll say that I absolutely love the honesty and I want to see more of it. But I think it's just something that I think we need to be careful about and be careful with watching, even though that Ed Sheeran clip is an absolute disgrace. Like, why is he walking into a Ruben Amorim interview after he's just drawn a game, his first game? He obviously does not look very happy. He didn't want to be there at all. Just wants to coach the team. I absolutely love that. But we know what the media is like in this country. So, hey, look, it was a 1-1 draw for United, and well, hopefully it can only get better. There'll be some rougher times. There'll be some tougher teams to play against as well. And look, ideally, we'd like to 2-1 win today, or just to win and take 3 points, 6 points off top four. Look, I think we can have targets for the season. and we can think, let's go win the Europa League, or let's go get in the top four, let's challenge for top three, top four, because we're close to it. But I think today was just a reminder, really, that there's a hell of a lot of work to do for a hell of a lot of people. Include the players in that, include the coaches in that. And Ruben Amorim is no doubt relishing it, but it's going to take a little bit of time, and it will take different profiles. It's just up to the profiles of the players that are in the team now to prove that they can live and work within this system that is going to be implemented moving forward. So, look, that's it for me, guys. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with anything that I've said. Let me know your thoughts on the United's best players today, who you think might work in the system, who might not. We'll wait and see. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section on YouTube, and please subscribe to the channel as well, the Promise and a Manchester United podcast. Please subscribe on Apple and Spotify for audio shows as well. We release this as video and as audio, so please do subscribe everywhere and leave a 5-star review on those audio platforms, and follow me on social media as well at @_Scott Saunders on X, Instagram, and TikTok, and I'm on Blue Sky as well. Link is in the description. But thank you very much for listening or for watching. I'll be back soon with another Promised Land podcast. But until next time, thanks, everyone. Ruben Amorim era gets off to a little bit of a drab start, but hey, plenty of work to do.